Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Coming to Resolution. I'm wearing the same shit because I recorded a video earlier. So, I kind of want to talk about men and emotions. So, it kind of harkens back to that suppressing emotions video I did where we were talking about how it's a little unhealthy to keep emotions suppressed, but also it's necessary sometimes in order to get things done. This is sort of similar. So, if you have ever noticed your man kind of looking lost in thought, he might actually just be lost in thought, but something that I've noticed, whether it be with myself or even with the other men and around me, when we kind of look lost in thought, it's because we're dealing with an emotion. When we're lost in thought like that, we're dealing with that emotion internally, because generally we are taught that it's not okay to show emotion. Generally, we're taught that it's not safe to show emotion, so a lot of the time we don't, which really sucks that there's like a stigma around that, because men are supposed to be like tanks, we're supposed to be strong all the time. And that's just not how it goes. There will be times where a man will be dealing with what feels like the weight of the world on his shoulders, and instead of absolutely losing his mind, he decides he's going to deal with that emotion internally. And when we're doing that, it's because we are trying our best just to hold it together. Meaning, like, we could be on the verge of tears, and we're trying to hold it together, because if we decide to show emotion, then we're seen as weak, or maybe it's just a matter of we don't feel safe showing that emotion in the environment we're in. It's a common thing in the workplace, when we're at work and we're dealing with emotions and trying not to lose our shit and still get our work done. That's when we kind of process internally, and we're able, since we're keeping our hands busy generally, it's easier to deal with the emotion and not lose our shit, because we are doing a task while internally dealing with an emotion. Like, I could be having one of the worst days I've ever had, and I decide that I'm going to still go to work, and I'm going to just work through it throughout the workday if it takes me that long. Or I eventually come to the conclusion that I'm not going to let it affect my entire day, because I would rather have a bad moment as opposed to a bad day. That's kind of the tricky thing when it comes to dealing with emotions on your own, because you have to convey that you can hold it together and be the strong person without showing any sign of, I don't want to say vulnerability, but for lack of a better word, we're going to say vulnerability, because vulnerability a lot of the time is seen as weak, like we shouldn't be doing it. And so we don't. We just don't. I might tell you, but you won't see it, except for maybe if I'm pissed off or something. You'll probably see that, because I do I wear my anger on my face. um, but regardless of that, like, in terms of my actions, you're probably not going to see that, because I have learned through the years that it's better to just deal with my emotions internally, and deal with whatever I need to deal with mentally while I'm keeping my hands busy, or maybe I'm even doing this sometimes. I mean, It just kind of depends, but I'm giving myself a task to complete while I'm working through things, and that generally helps. Um, but you'll probably hardly ever see your man straight up break down. If you see your man break down, that he is he's fucking broken. Um, or maybe it's just a matter of he feels safe with you. You've accomplished that, and that's really hard to do in today's world, I feel like, cuz I mean, for all my life, I've been around nothing but stoic people, and if you show emotion, you're weak, or it comes across as attention seeking even sometimes. And like in high school, I was not super stoic. I was angry all the time, and you could fucking you could see. I think I broke down crying in high school maybe twice, you know? Um, it's all it's all kind of dumb now, but nowadays you'll never see that out of me. And most men that I know, you'll never see that out of them either. Blue collar men specifically, we deal with our emotions with yelling at shit at work. Or if we're able to do it, we'll be taking a hammer to something just for the little bit of edge that takes off. It's one of those things where hitting something with a hammer just kind of feels like a release. That's why I'm a really big advocate for martial arts, because you get to go into a class and hit a bag. You can hit that motherfucker as hard as you want, and you don't have to worry about legal consequences or hurting someone or even yourself if you don't know how to throw a punch. You know what I mean? Um, it's that release of emotions. I have a lot of outlets for getting out emotions. Lately, it has been weighted body weight exercises like pull ups or push ups or, whatever I can do to throw some weight around. And my job. At my job, I sometimes I get to break shit, and sometimes I get to hit things with a hammer in order to fix it. Um, and other times I get to make something that would complete the job and make the door work how it's supposed to. But anyway, you will hardly ever see a man show emotion because we have been taught from a very young age that that's not okay to do. So we just don't do it. And now that I see so often on social media that it gives women the ick, right, to be a vulnerable man or show emotion, like it's just there's a whole stigma that we can't do it at all, so we don't. You will hear me talk in the same tone of voice until I get really fucking angry. I will be right here um talking just like this until I get really angry, and generally that is when I'm at work. And because I'm at work, I'm able to let it out a little bit. Um but I have multiple outlets for that. So I recommend to men who are having to deal with emotions this way, you don't have anybody to really talk to about your emotions, and you're not really allowed to show emotion in your mind. I would recommend getting a hobby where you can release those emotions. For me, it's screaming, and it's exercise. I mean, like the screaming you hear in metal music. That's what I do. Um, I've been doing that for fuck almost 12 years, and that's been my release since then. You know, it's something that it feels like I'm getting something out whenever I'm doing any sort of screaming, and then the exercise helps with that because I generally turn my emotions into a tool to get the workout done and to do better than I'm maybe could have done the day before. Um, so I recommend that. I also would like to say that it's really important that whoever you have around you feels safe with you, because we are all human and we are all going to deal with emotions, and emotions don't make you weak. However, because it is such a big deal that we show emotion, and it becomes such a problem a lot of the time, then um this is probably gonna take some time because of this societal, we'll use standard, I guess. Yeah, societal standard, I suppose. Um, you'll see a man get passionate about something and maybe he raises his voice a little bit, or maybe he changes his tone ever so slightly. A lot of the time, you won't see a lot of men show emotion, and that's because of the teaching and the now societal stigma. We aren't allowed to be sensitive. We aren't allowed to be uh sad. We aren't allowed to cry. Um, uh, Men cry. Men fucking cry. We may not do it in front of anybody, but we cry. And it's one of those things where we might like come home from work, sit in the car for a few minutes and just let it out for about, 5 minutes or so, and let the tears flow, and then we'll put ourselves back together and get back to whatever it is we need to do with the day. Men's mental health is not a thing that I want looked over. I have personally lost someone, and I know people who have lost a lot of men in their lives due to mental health. And it's such a, I feel like it's such a problem because, like, let's say someone's really going through it, like you see that they're living a great life, but they're really going through it, and they make sudden, like, little subtle posts or even reposts, on whatever, take your pick of social media, and nobody pays attention to that stuff. Oh, he can't be suicidal. He's living a great life. He's living the life that some people would even dream of. But that's just not how that goes. I could have Jeff Bezos money, and if I'm not dealing with my emotions, and I am depressed and I feel alone in the world, and whatever else I may feel to bring me to that edge, then I'm not going to be here. It's just the way that it's going to go. I'm not going to be here. That goes for anybody, but it's so looked over with men because we have to be strong, and oh, he's just expressing himself. I saw a video from Jake Barr. His TikTok is Bar None. I like him. Um, he was posting about a dude who Control Alt deleted himself. And in the video, he was talking about how people were saying, look at his reposts, there were signs and so on and so forth, but he said they weren't signs when he was alive. That really stuck with me whenever he said that, because, like, truly, nobody pays attention to that stuff. Nobody pays attention to the signs that men might show that lead up to Control Alt deletion. It just, nobody pays attention to that stuff. And I feel like if maybe we paid more attention or did better at providing community for men, then uh, it would be way less likely that that man eliminated himself. But considering that emotions are considered weakness for men generally, I think it's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be a thing where men's mental health is overlooked and more men keep, you know, eliminating themselves, and we are going to keep wondering why it's happening and how we got to this point. But it's there's been signs, and there's been constant fucking history of why it's happening and how it's happening, and even what leads into it. You know, I have been the man who has tried to eliminate himself. I have tried numerous times throughout even the last 5 years. You know, like it's not something that I was necessarily advertising, but it's not something that I wasn't. I guess there was a part of me, the little self-preservation that I had left in those moments, that was like putting something out there for someone to read, and maybe at some point someone could reach out to me for once. But that's not how it works. Like we have to have community, and we have to be upfront and be like, hey, with trusted people, you go, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and this is kind of what I want to do about it, and then you can have the conversation and brainstorm and talk each other off of the edge. That's what is supposed to happen. Um, which is also a really unfortunate thing, because whenever I lost one of my friends years ago, I didn't get a phone call. I don't think anybody got a phone call. He just did it. It just happened. His girlfriend at the time told me they were gone for maybe half an hour. Came back and he was done for. And I don't think anybody got any kind of phone call or text message or anything. I don't think any of that happened. Probably because he felt unsafe to share his emotions, if I had to guess. Because I knew him for years, a long time, and it was very out of character for him to even show any kind of sadness, let alone wanting to kill himself. But he did. Whenever he was showing any kind of sign of anger or sadness, or even like he's just really fucking going through it, it was something to be concerned for, because that man was always goofy as fuck. He was always trying to light up other people's worlds. He was always trying to do for others what maybe they couldn't do for themselves. But either no one showed up for him, or he didn't do his part to reach out to get the help. And I'm not entirely sure which one. I wasn't present for the situation, obviously, but that's what I would guess. I think it's really important that we are more careful about how we treat men and men's mental health. And while I see a lot of creators that are advocating for men's mental health and really trying to be the change, and I love everything about it, I'm still not necessarily seeing the change, and it's not their fault. I mean, it's just where we're at right now, I guess, societally, um, in society, whatever. I don't care. Um, but I think it's something that we need to be more careful for. Eliminating ourselves is not something that needs to be looked over, period, but it's most common with men. There's a stat out there. I don't know if it's changed or not. I haven't looked in a while because it fucking irks my soul. Um, where men take up 80% of all suicides. And it's so often that this is happening, and it's almost consistent. It's fucking insane, but I understand why they're doing this. I understand why they don't want to be here, or maybe feel like there's no other way. There's nothing to do to make it easier for them. I understand that feeling, and the shit hurts. It sucks a lot, and there's There's not a whole lot that they feel they can do for it, but there is a whole lot of things that we collectively can do, and that starts, I think, with community. Him knowing that he has a safe place to be, and even a close group of friends, you know, that they can all talk and brainstorm and problem solve together whenever it comes that time. I feel like if everybody had that, then those numbers would start to dwindle. But until that happens, and until there's not such a stigma about men's emotions and men showing emotions and men feeling like they have to do everything on their own for themselves on top of everything they do for everyone else, I don't think it's going to change. I hope it does. Genuinely, I do. I really want that to change. That's not something I feel like we should keep carrying on. And, you know, I might ruffle some feathers with this one. Women, when it comes to emotions, you are not the only ones allowed to feel emotions. Men feel them too. They do. When a man is dealing with something, let's say it's your man specifically, right? You claim to be in love with this man and he shows emotion, and you decide that because he's depressed and maybe he's not his normal superhero figure that you've painted him to be, you leave, or you stop showing any kind of interest in him, or you know, whatever the case is, it's a negative outcome because he's shown emotion. That is so, unfortunately, that is so common, and it's stupid to me. It's baffling, even, to be honest with you, because if we were to do that to you, if men were to leave a woman or whatever, cheat on a woman even for showing emotions, or that whole like fuck all men and all men are shit bullshit that you guys got going on would be way worse than it is. Way worse than it is. We would be getting torn to shreds, as if we already don't, but we would get torn to shreds over that. But whenever a woman leaves a man for showing emotion, then it's, well, you did all you could. Good for you. You got away from him. Go find a real man. Fuck all that, dude. Fuck all of that shit, dude. I can't stand it. I cannot fucking stand whenever I hear go find a real man. In any context, I can't fucking stand it. The man that you're referring to that is not a real man, in your opinion, might actually be a real man, but he's dealing with a lot of shit right now. And maybe he's thinking of fucking eliminating himself to make life easier for him. Maybe. Wild theory, right? Men can feel things. But you'll never fucking see that because there's so much fucking drama around our emotions, and we're not allowed to show emotions or even show a sign of weakness because there is such a stigma around it. There is such a quote unquote standard that men have to be a certain way all of the time. I'll tell you what, the strongest men that I have ever met in my life, they feel emotions. My dad is a great example of this. I have seen him cry a singular time in my life, and it was a singular tear. One time ever have I seen him cry, but I know he feels emotions. He fucking raised me. Of course he feels emotions. He's a human being. We're not sociopaths. I mean, some people are sociopaths, but generally we are not sociopaths. We feel things. I think a vast majority of people, not just men or women, but people need to learn that everybody feels things. Everyone is fucking allowed to feel things. And if you see a man who is maybe just he's looking off in the distance, he's got that 1,000-yard stare going on, he might just be dealing with an emotion. He might really be lost in thought. But he's probably, at least in my experience, it's not a matter of being lost in thought. It's a matter of they're dealing with an emotion internally and they're not wanting to show it. It's the way that it goes. They're not wanting to express it to whoever it is that's around them. Or maybe they don't know how to yet. There are possibilities, but it falls on all of us. I mean, every single one of us, it falls on all of us. When we are able to stop judging people for feeling things and we stop judging people and shitting on people for showing emotion, I think we'll be a whole lot better off. The most common places I've seen men cry are in the courtroom when they learn they can have custody of their children, in the actual delivery room when their children are born, maybe their wedding day, maybe, or funerals. Even funerals, I've seen motherfuckers stand there and stonewall. They've got the stone face going on, but I know they're dealing with a lot of shit. They're dealing with a lot of emotions, but we're men. We were bred to be warriors, and that's all we are. And to an extent, yes, we should be. We absolutely should be able to go to war. Absolutely should be able. However, just because we're capable of war and we're capable of fighting the world sometimes, it doesn't mean that we don't need a little help sometimes. Because we do. I've already given the solutions that I can think of for this, because there's not a whole lot of solutions for this. At least not that I can currently think of. Maybe we just need to be better as a society. You know? Maybe that's the simplest solution, is just to be better as a society. The internet has us comfortable with talking shit to people because we're doing it behind a keyboard and we don't have to deal with consequences. You know, whenever even I was growing up, I'm only 25, but even when I was growing up, you couldn't sit behind a keyboard and just talk shit. You had to say it to somebody's face, or they had to come and say it to you. And there was almost always consequences. On the internet, you don't have to deal with that. But back then, you did. And I think that's a really big reason that people are so comfortable saying whatever it is that they want to on the internet. And that's really unfortunate, because a lot of you have really shitty takes. And a lot of you will go on the internet talking about how men are garbage, and I heard the opinion from a man. There's just a whole negative context around men in general. If you want to be bitter, then go be bitter. If a man hurt you, if one specific man hurt you, that is not the entire population of men's fault. If multiple men hurt you, you're still the common denominator. That is not the entire population of men's fault. That I don't go on the internet talking about all women are garbage, all women are this and that. No, because that's not true. Yeah, there are shitty women out there. There are also fantastic women out there. You know what I mean? Fantastic women out there. I've met a lot of great women in my life. There are just a few who really fucked me up in one way or another. That is not that is not the entire population of women's fault. It's those select few, right? Anyway, I think that's all I got for that one. I've already given my solution for this, and I doubt with a channel as small as mine that it's going to make any real impact, but um I I hope that someday it can happen. So that's all I got. I will see you in the next one.